All right, everyone. My name is Dan Torres, and I have the distinct pleasure of introducing my good friend Tim Rogers and Zephyr Teach Out tonight. I want to start about my friend Tim. Tim grew up in New Paltz. He knows where we've been, where we're going, and he knows where we're at as well. Tim serves on our school board, and he's also served on the planning board as well. And for those of you who don't know, those are absolutely the two hardest volunteer positions you could possibly do. They require a lot of work. I hear the pay isn't very good. And of course, there's a lot of issues with that. So Tim has brought a great amount of energy to both of those positions. On the school board, Tim's been the chair of the Legislative Action Committee, where he's talked about issues that affect our students and how Albany's played a role with that and works to try to make those better. On our planning board, Tim's brought a same level of energy as well. For those of you who don't know, the Wilmerite project, for example, Tim was right in the middle of that and talked. And I think if it wasn't for Tim and a number of other people in our community, it's possible that that tax giveaway would have already happened. So that's something we should really appreciate. Now, the village of New Paltz is only about 6,000 people. It's about 1.5 miles long, but in many ways it's kind of a microcosm of what we want our world to be, right? It's got senior citizens, seniors in high school, seniors in college. It's retirees and growing families. And it's very progressive as well. And if there's someone I want to see lead that torch and continue for our community to be a main street of local businesses opposed to Five Guy burger stands, it's Tim Rogers. Some of you got that joke. So with that, I'd also like to introduce Zephyr Teach Out. For those of you who don't know, her name is Zephyr Teach Out, which sounds like a progressive superhero. She is an accomplished author, a professor at Fordham, and of course she ran for governor as well. And hey, she was not successful in her race for governor, but that does not mean that she didn't do something incredibly successful. She started an important narrative in our state, and she really kicked that off. She's more or less New York's Elizabeth Warren, if you will. Progressive movements don't have to be successful at the ballot box to be successful initially. You know, in New Paltz, you got about 90% of the vote. I was disappointed it was so low. But if we look at the history of the modern progressive movement, I think we can date it back to 1912. Teddy Roosevelt ran as a Bull Moose Party member. And he had a coalition of candidates who ran all over the country, and they all universally, for the most part, lost. Almost everywhere. But about 20 years later, at the Democratic National Convention, the Democrats got ready to nominate a candidate. He was a governor from New York, and he was backed by Tammany Hall, and his name was Andrew Cuomo. No. His name was Al Smith. But they changed how you vote on candidates, and instead they adopted the Bull Moose platform from 1912 and ended up endorsing a different Roosevelt to run. And many of those ideals that you saw in 1912 became a reality 20 years later. I don't think it's going to be 20 years before a number of things that Zephyr Teach Out advocated for become a reality in New York State. But with that, I'd like to turn it over to Zephyr Teach Out.
All right, thank you.